There are times when you like your job, and there are times when you really like your job. And you don't need 3 guesses to work out how I'm feeling right now. Our pilot for the afternoon is Captain Jack, and yes, that is his real name, and yes, people do call him Captain Jack Sparrow. We are in Mindanao at the Dakak Park Beach Resort, and today is our last day of filming. Jack has flown in from Manila especially to pilot the resort's own helicopter so that we can get some aerial shots of the resort and surrounding areas. The weather recently hasn't been the greatest, but fortunately this afternoon the conditions are just about perfect. Our first destination is the island of Selinog. Does it sound a bit pretentious when I say Selinog is about 20 minutes helicopter ride from Dakak Park Beach Resort? Yes, I think it does. Having scared the living daylights out of a few fishermen as we buzz the beach, we head over to the island of Alaguay. If you recall, Alaguay is where we saw the pod of pilot whales, which was number 20 in our memorable moments above water. After circling around the island a few times, we head back to the mainland. Back on terra firma, it's obvious that the province of Zamboanga del Norte is very scenic, but it's not until you gain a bit of altitude in the helicopter that the full beauty of the place is apparent. We're now over the Dakak Park Beach Resort. It's now possible to see how big this place is. Everything you see in the foreground is the resort, and to the right hand side of the rocky hill is where the Greg Norman designed 18-hole championship golf course will be built. Continuing westwards along the coastline, we fly over Dapitan and onto Dipolog Airport. Now I have to say that being in a helicopter is great fun. I love it, especially when flying low and doing tight banking manoeuvres. But flying low level, the wrong way down a runway, gives me the willies. Captain Jack reassures me a number of times that the airport is actually closed in the afternoons and there's no chance of a high-speed rendezvous with a 737. Time is getting on now and we've been airborne for about 75 minutes. We head over the many fish farms back to Dapitan, where we'll take a look at some of the sites we've previously filmed from the ground. Remember the Mindanao relief map made by Jose Rizal that I filmed previously from the crane? Well, here it is again. And this is the ever-increasing in size Gloria's Fantasyland theme park. And last up is the Rizal Landing Site Monument. I'll tell you what, keeping the camera steady in the helicopter is not easy. Next time, I'm going to get a harness and hang out the side. Having been airborne for 90 minutes now, we are rapidly losing sunlight, and more importantly, fuel. So we head back to Dakak. After a very short pit stop, Jack offers to give us a lift to a nearby hill to film the sunset. Well, you've heard of heli skiing, so this must be heli time-lapse. How cool is that? It's the 10th of March and we're in northern Coron staying at the rather lovely resort Club Paradise. And the only reason we are here is to film these creatures. Dugongs, or sea cows. These are similar to the manatee found in Florida, but these have a forked tail opposed to the manatee's rounded one. Dugong have not had a good time in the Philippines. Once upon a time they were very common all over the country, but sadly they have been hunted almost to the point of extinction. The north of Coron has the largest population, numbering around 30 to 40 individuals. Which obviously is not a very large population, but with some great work by environmental NGOs and the Dugong Dive Centre, attitudes have changed and the dugongs are no longer hunted. Encouraging signs of population growth are apparent, as you can see here with a mother and her calf. We filmed this in the late afternoon in front of Kalawit Island. I'm snorkeling here and to be honest I'm swimming like crazy to keep up with them. The next day we return to the same place at exactly the same time, having spent the day looking for dugongs in other areas with the main aim of trying to film them feeding and scratching whilst on scuba. I never did get my shots, but I guess I got the next best thing, as you will see. This mother had been seen quite regularly playing with a calf in deeper water in the mid-afternoon. Again, I'm snorkeling and I'm beginning to think that the mother's getting used to me and tolerates me being near to them. And then, quite literally out of the blue, this happens. There's another mother with her calf right in front of me, less than 30 feet away. This is wow. As it happened, when we spotted the dugong from the boat and jumped in, I followed what I thought to be the only mother and calf and was confused why Siobhan was not following me, only to realise that she had been following the other pair and collided into me when the two pairs of dugongs came together. The weather for our remaining days in Coron was foul and we didn't manage to get back to Kalawit. In June, we returned to Club Paradise to try and get that elusive shot of a feeding dugong. We saw one of the pairs of mother and calf in Kalawit again, and apparently the calf of the other pair had left his mum, enabling her to mate again. Next year, I will get that shot. You know when you visit a place and it leaves a lasting impression on you? Well, if you visit Batad, which is near Banawi in North Luzon, I promise you, you will experience those feelings. Okay, I have a challenge for you. Our room cost us $9, about £6 per night, and this was the view from its window. I think it is probably the best room cost versus quality of view ratio possible. I bet you can't do better. Maybe sleeping in a cardboard box in front of the Taj Mahal might come close. Either way, Batad is a spectacularly beautiful but simple place. They have electricity, but there are no roads, and the elders run the community and maintain their traditional ways. As a tourist, you are welcome to freely roam around the village and meet the locals. This old man has lived his whole life in Batad, with only occasional visits to Banawi. He lives by himself as his wife passed away a few years ago and his kids have taken a more modern life in Manila. To pass the time, he carves spoons and forks, which he sells to make a few quid. To get to Batad, you take a 1-hour ride from Banawi to the viewpoint at the top of the hill overlooking the valley. That's where the roads end. Then you have a 45-minute trek down the hill to the village where the tourist accommodation is. It is blissfully quiet here. There are no motorbikes or cars. There's no cell phone signal, so people don't have their phones on them and play music. The local people are busy during the day, either working on the land or within the tourist industry somehow, and therefore no time for karaoke. And I suspect cockfighting isn't such a big thing here either, so there are fewer cocks crowing too. To my Filipino friends, I apologise if I am being negative towards everyday activities and pastimes. I do not mean to cause offence. But one thing I've learnt in my 8 years of experience in the Philippines is that there is no such thing as noise pollution, something that most Caucasians will detest. And this is one of the many reasons why I love this place. No noise. In fact, the noisiest thing we heard in the 2 days we spent here was the water crashing down the Tapia waterfalls. Normally, you'd be able to swim in the plunge pool, but because of the amount of rain recently, it was a raging torrent. Rain has caused a lot of problems for Batad over the last 6 months. From October through to December 11, there was way above average rainfall. The natural drainage of the terraces couldn't cope with the volume of water, so the soil became saturated and consequently too heavy for the stone wall terraces, and big landslides ensued. On the upside, the Philippine government and UNESCO are funding rebuilding, which in turn gives employment and therefore more people become skilled at stonewall terracing. No trip to the Ifugao province is complete until you've experienced the Native Cultural Show. Normally this would be done in the evening, but so that we could capture it on film, the dancers did a special show for us. The dances have their roots going back hundreds of years, and it feels strangely moving to see a part of Philippine culture with such a magnificent backdrop. maybe somewhere deep down I am just a tiny bit romantic, as only someone with a stone heart cannot help but fall in love with Batat. The first of the podium positions now, and followers of the videos I upload onto Facebook and my YouTube channel may recognise this place. It's the House Reef at Club Paradise in Coron. This place in my books is a strong contender for Best Resort House Reef. Other places like Peter's Dive Resort in Southern Leyte and some of the resorts in Darwin Negros also have a good shout. Either way, this is a cracking dive for someone with a bit of biology knowledge. It's always a welcome sight to see a large school of big-eyed trevally, but there's two other reasons why this is a great dive. Firstly, the macro life. For a place with white sand, the diversity was surprisingly good. I had never seen a pygmy pipe horse before, and by the end of our stays, we had seen 6. I never get tired of seeing ornate ghost pipefish, and here are 5 of them. Another first for me, jawfish, with their eggs in their mouth. It's actually the male's responsibility to look after the eggs. If you look closely, you can not only see the eyes, but also the blood moving through the vessels. There's a whole heap of other macro stuff around as well, including nudibranchs, frogfish, seahorses and crabs. But for me, the real star of the show is this female green turtle. Omar, the dive master, has known the turtle for years and has developed this relationship whereby she will accept seagrass roots from him. Now, some people may object to divers interacting with turtles in such a way, but the way I see it, Omar is only feeding her what she would normally eat herself. Once he's finished feeding her, she doesn't pester or expect more, and carries on feeding herself. Given that Omar has a special relationship with the turtle, I find it surprising that he has not given her a name. So if you would be so kind as to offer some suggestions, please jot them down in the comments box below for Omar to consider. Obvious ones that spring to mind are Shelley, Olivia, or how about Marley, because she likes grass so much. Struggling now. Siobhan has a go at feeding her too, and if you look closely, the turtle nips her finger. Siobhan confirms later that turtle beaks are in fact sharp and solid. No surprises there. Okay, time for a quick lesson on turtle identification. In the Philippines, green and hawksbill turtles are the most common species. The hawksbill, as its name suggests, has a beak or bill that's more hooked than the green's. The shell or carapace is jagged around the edge, whereas the green is relatively smooth. Also, hawksbill tend to have algae growing on their shell, making it look quite dirty, whereas greens look after theirs and keep them beautifully clean and shiny. One other thing, you can tell the sex of the turtle by the size of its tail. This one is small, so she's a girl. If it were much bigger, it'll be a boy. Right, everyone else seems to be able to feed this turtle, so I'm going to give it a go too. Having seen Siobhan get her fingers nipped, I'm a little concerned I'm going to lose flesh. You see, I'm looking through the camera's viewfinder and not directly at the turtle. Here we go. Success, all fingers present and correct. So as it's time for the turtle to get some air, it's time for us to go too. Take care, Marley. It's the 9th of June and we're on a filming project for the Marco Vincent Resort in White Beach, Porto Galera. We've got a full day's diving ahead of us planned out when this rather lovely lady, Ali from Asia Divers, sends Siobhan a text message to say she's found something very, very special. Our plans for the day change in an instant. As you've heard me say so many times already, Siobhan and I are avid muck and macro divers. We have been privileged to see so many cool and rare creatures, but like everyone else, we have a list of things we had not seen before. And what we were about to see was my numero uno, my holy grail of macro critters. I don't know how many dives I've done, 2,000 plus? I have looked and looked for this so many times. I'd even been to Lemby in Sulawesi to try and find one, and at last here was not only one but two. Rhinopius eschmeyeri, also known as a paddle flap scorpionfish, or more simply a rhinopia. There are three species of rhinopia: paddle flap, as you see here, weedy and lacy, all living in slightly different environments to which they have become suited. I have to admit that watching rhinopia is not the greatest of spectator sports, but I didn't care whether it yawned, ate something or took a shit or not. This was my first and I was loving it. As it happens, the video I took on this dive was rubbish. I guess I couldn't concentrate enough with all the excitement to keep the camera still and to get the lighting right. That day we started diving at 10:30 AM to see the rhinopia. We still made 5 dives, 2 of which were with the rhinopia. We got back to White Beach around midnight, exhausted, but with a huge sense of satisfaction and enjoyment. Ali asked us not to tell anyone where the rhinopia are, in fear that they get mobbed by divers, and to this day we've not told a soul. So if you want to go and see them for yourself, please contact Alison Loudon Manis at Asia Divers in Porto Galera. I'm sure she'll only be too happy to take you. And Ali, if you're watching, from me and Shiv, thank you. If you'd like to see more of our videos, please feel free to subscribe to us on YouTube or like us on Facebook.